Beyond Legacy here for another exciting conversation. I'm excited, Erica. Are you excited?
Yes, I am excited. Always a pleasure to get in front of you guys and actually exude some of our confidence, right?
If you don't know, go back to the last episode.
Right.
But I'm John Treese Wells.
And I'm Erica Fernandez.
And we are the Legacy Ladies. We talk all things legacy. We want to impart our knowledge and our wisdom and our values about legacy to you as our community. And so we want you to know that you are an impact that never dies. And so being that impact leaves a legacy, and we want to just help you curate and form and dive into and be confident in all things legacy.
Yes. That is the important part, because whether you know it or not, you're leaving a legacy. Mm-hmm. Good, bad, or indifferent, you're leaving something in someone's heart, in someone's mind, in someone's activity that you've taught them, that you showed them, or that you've intentionally tried to be a part of in their life. Yes. And they value you for that. And maybe someone's told you, maybe they haven't. Maybe you've seen it illustrated in the life that they live now, or you've heard a saying that you used to say that you didn't think they were paying attention to, but they literally were, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And they were. And they're showing you better than they could tell you how they value you.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I think in this conversation, just about legacy preparation, right? How to prepare while you're alive,
right?
While you're growing your family, while you're raising your family, how to take care of the past generation, whether it's your grandparents, great-grandparents, or your parents, and how to prepare the future generation on taking care of the things that you value, being wise with the resources, and just taking on the family morals, values, etc.
Right. Those generations that we just mentioned. What are you preparing for if something happens to your parents? What legacy are they leaving in your hands that you're just waiting, not necessarily waiting, but you're thinking, well, I don't have to really get involved until. And really the until is right now. Knowing, growing within them, learning them, passing on, because you are that person in the family that they're going to come to and says, what did grandma do? Or what did, auntie whatever like? And those are the things. So those past generation that you may be responsible for, maybe they got Alzheimer's early and now you're caring for them. You right now is that preparation time for you. What are you doing for you? Because sometimes we get lost in the caring of someone and forget about ourselves. And we really have to go, okay, what am I putting in place for me? Because something shall happen to me as well. And then what do my kids need to be prepared for as well? So those generations, are working constantly every day. We're fortunate if we, are older and still have our parents alive. They still have the ability to teach, engage, show, and actually talk to you about what is valuable for them and what they lived through. And then passing that down to your kids as well.
So what are some tools? So let's break this down a little bit. So what are some tools? Let's talk about, you are in the middle, right? And you have your parents, potentially your grandparents, potentially, right? And so what are some of those tools that you would need to have in place to make sure that your parents and your grandparents are taken care of, that you are, being that support system for them, whether they're healthy and they're living on their own and they're still motorized and things like that, or maybe they need assistance, maybe they live in an assisted living home, or maybe they're developing some kind of illness, disease, or things like that. So what are some of those things that we need to have in place to make sure that that generation is taken care of?
Well, I think the first thing, though, before we get to some of the other great tools, is communication.
Yes.
And understanding of where they are.
Yeah.
Not where you want them to be,
right.
Where they truly are. And then what you need to do to step in right now to help them live well and have a quality of life to live well, right? What is that? What kind of funding do they have, right? Is it a financial situation that you need to make sure they can live a high quality of life in their last days.
Yeah.
Because as the saying goes, they have more years behind them than they have before them.
Yeah.
So what do you have in place? What's being communicated to you about those things? We can't wait till it happens. We must know ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to have the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the crucial conversations you must have. So communication is one,
Yeah.
right? Understanding where they are and saying, okay, what are you doing? And some of you may be caring for them because some of them didn't do what? They didn't retire well.
Right.
And so you may be financially supporting that today.
Mm-hmm.
I count it as an honor. They supported us, but some may not. But see the value in that and then look at that and say, okay, I want to do better.
Right.
And so you do need tools like life insurance. What do the investments look like? What does the retirement look like? What does the disability look like? So assessment
Right.
of those things
Right.
that they have in place. That is the, people say they don't need money, but it is the undergirding issue of all families when it breaks down is like, you got to come out of pocket for something you didn't prepare for. So preparation.
Yeah. I think you're saying a lot of good things, and you talk about the communication. And a lot of times what the middle person doesn't want to take on is the responsibility of the elders, right? Or we may feel like, oh, they got it. They figured it out. They're still living well. They're still on their own. They're still this, they're still that. But really being prepared because, it's inevitable, right? Two things are inevitable. One is death, one is taxes. But it's inevitable that they're going to get older. It's inevitable that they're going to get to a point to where they can't take care of themselves. And so having that conversation, inserting yourself, because we know, especially in our community, you go to your grandparents or your parents and say, okay, what do we have? They don't want to tell you stuff. They don't want to share all the things that they have, for themselves and things like that. But really inserting yourselves and letting them know, Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, I really just want to make sure that you are taken care of and that you get to live well, right? So what is the pension that you are currently getting? What is the Social Security that you're currently getting? Not that I want to take your money, not that I'm trying to take your money or be all up in your business, but I just need to know, what is the long-term care policy that you have? Is it enough? What is the life insurance policy that you have? Is it enough? What are the investments that you have? And is it still growing? Are you taking withdrawals from it? Is it in your will and your trust? These are questions that the assessment that you should have when having your family meetings or creating those family meetings and saying, okay, I need to ask these questions and I just need to know where we at so that I can prepare for what's to come. Whether we need to get you another life insurance policy, whether we need to get you another long-term care policy, whether we need to get you a concierge policy. Like, there's so many things that we can do to prepare for what's inevitable.
That assessment is key because you get to say, okay, and some situation is just Medicare and Social Security. And then you must understand, what if I get in the long-term care situation? What if my elderly parent broke their hip and they needed further care? Or will Social Security be enough? Will Medicare cover enough? What are those things? And sometimes the language in those policies or whatever are something you don't truly understand. But assessing, communicating is what we're charging you to do, to actually do for every one of your family members. If you live in a family and your brothers and sisters, you don't know if they have it or not, guess what? Ask the questions. And so that the past, current, and future generations know and understand, and you can actually sleep easy at night. This is a burden that's not being talked about, but they know if something were to happen to them, who's going to take care of it? One of the key topics that doesn't get communicated or talked about a lot is if you have special needs. If you have special needs kids, a special need parent, and something happens to you before them, who's going to care for them? We always say, oh yeah, My
This
sister
is
will do
good.
it.
Yeah.
But is your sister financially equipped to do that?
Right.
We always just assume.
Yeah, there's a story of a mother and daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And the mother was um, elderly. I want to say, maybe, I won't put an age on it. The mother was elderly, right? And the daughter was pretty old. And she was a special needs daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And they were homeless
Mm-hmm.
because the mother was taking care of the daughter, who was older, elderly, and just couldn't afford, when we talk about inflation, the cost of living and everything going up, and she just didn't trust anybody else to take care of her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So they're both homeless together on the street, which could be just so hard.
Yeah.
Right? You have a special needs child, you're elderly yourself, you're not getting the resources that you need. You guys are sleeping in your cars, you're doing all these things. I mean, and again, the inevitable is that you will pass away. You will die. So then what? Then what happens to your daughter?
This is why we talk about community.
Mm-hmm.
Because in that scenario, just think about it. Think about the burden on the mom's heart.
Mm-hmm.
And the special needs person is like, she doesn't want to be apart from her mom either.
Right.
And they're in this together. Homelessness is so real.
Yeah.
And it comes and looks different for everybody.
Yes.
But knowing what their options are and within their community, not leaving them or just saying, well, they don't want my help, and so I'm just going to leave them out there. No.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get better about that.
Let's get better.
Let's get better because
in
the end, guess what? The laws and the states have rules. And baby, if she doesn't have anybody, one of our sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles is going to be responsible.
Yeah.
So doing the assessment, understanding what their needs are, not just now, but in the future. Think about the emergencies.
Yeah.
What could happen? And if they need home health care, what tools do they have individually? What do you need to make sure? And if you don't know, those are great questions to ask someone who's in the profession to do that.
Yes.
Right? We're licensed professionals and we actually, operate in a lot of those categories.
Mm-hmm.
And we would say, you know what? Reach out to us.
Yep.
We also have affiliates who work in different categories, in different areas. And so we could actually point you into a direction.
Mm-hmm.
But do not sit back and go, I don't know.
I'll get it later.
Care.
Yeah.
I'll cross that bridge when I come
when
to it. That's not going to work.
Mm-mm.
Chicken dinners, GoFundMe, all those things, they're out there. But you have to ask the people that really went through them and see really, not only did they help prepare the person that was dying, but what about their children and next generation? Right. What was the impact on them? And that is our desire to get that better.
Yeah, and so we can move into the right now generation, right? The person that's in it, the middle generation, right? And talking about the tools that they need. The assessment, I think, is assessment across the board. We got to assess across the board. Right. Where am I across the board? Mm-hmm. But the I would say that the middle generation has the best ability to be able to prepare, right? To be able to make sure that we are saving in high interest savings, right? That we are investing in high interest investments, that we have the appropriate amount of life insurance, where now would be the time to do it if you're healthy and you can get reasonable life insurance. What about life insurance that is income protected and cash value life insurance and things that will allow for when stuff happens? If I become disabled, or if I had a loss of job, or because of a disability or things like that, I can pull from the things that I've prepared for myself and for my family that will allow me to move forward.
Right, because if Medicare is your final solution, then you ought to know what Medicare will do.
Yep.
And then if you now understand that, you need to understand what they don't do. Mm-hmm. And what are you having in place in order to do that? And so those are crucial to what needs to be in place in the planning and preparation and the tools. And those tools, we can list them and tell you, life insurance, like you mentioned, long-term care, disability, Medicare, Social Security. What is your toolbox look like? What do you have in there?
Mm-hmm.
And then can they be used for your situation?
Right. And then we can move on to the future generation, right? Our kids and our grandchildren, and what are we looking to pass down to them?
Right.
How are we preparing them for this family dynamics, family system, because they are going to be the people to take care of the middle generation, right? And so how are we girding them? How are we preparing them and giving them a leg up, them rising up on our shoulders to be able to say, nope, mom, dad, and grandparents, they had this in place. And so I need to make sure that I do. And the middle generations needs to be saving for the future generation.
Really
because in order for them to give them the leg up, in order for them to rise on our shoulders, we need to be preparing them to do that. We are already in a deficit when we don't. When we don't prepare for a college fund, whether they go to school or not. Maybe that college fund is not in a only college investment. Maybe it's in a more flexible investment where they could start a business, where they can buy their first home, or they can do certain things. Go to a trade school.
Because 4 years not for them.
It's not for everybody, and I think everybody, any child should learn a skill. Learn a skill that you can take with you. And so really being able to prepare them and gird them so that they can rise and move faster than what we move because we've put things in place.
And one of the other things to put in place is that trust. We get into the policies and the insurance part, but then we're talking about actual assets. You got real estate. You need to have a trust. Literally, people think trusts are for the millionaires. No, you have asset that you must transfer. You need to trust. Now, I don't do wills and trusts, so I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert on it, but I have one in place because I have assets to transfer. And so literally, you need to make sure that's one tool you have in your place. That trust includes things like things you want to pass down, recipes, statements, information, whatever it is, write it out, make it plain, tell your story to the future generations.
You said something, you talked about millionaires, the trust being something the millionaires do. We have to begin to adopt what the wealthy are doing. So that we can then begin living like the wealthy. A lot of times we look at someone else and we go, oh, that's them over there. But why isn't it for us? Why can't we adopt those things where we're at? We may not be millionaires, and that's okay. But let's adopt some of the principles that they do because they have trust fund babies and their wealth gets passed on from generation to generation. So let's start it with us so that we can then move on and build that millionaire mindset, that wealthy mindset. And not only just for the trust, but there's certain forms that you have to have when you get sick. If you go into a hospital, if there's a lot of things that go into your estate planning. So it's not just a trust, it's not just a will. There are like so many other forms that your estate planner can ask you and get you ready for the long term.
Because one of the things they don't think about is when their kid goes off to college, you got to remember they're an adult. So if you don't have an advance directive over them, and someone out there can actually correct me if I'm wrong, but you need to have that advance directive over your child. So they don't make decisions for your child should something happen while they're away at college. So it's just those components that you really need to start thinking about. And no, you don't have to be a millionaire to have one. You need to be a regular nair. What is that? I don't know what it is. You need to be a regular old person and just put these things in place because they're beneficial to you and your children.
Absolutely. And your past generations. So, these are just very few tips, few things that we want you to think about when it comes to preparing your legacy, when it comes to securing your legacy, funding. There's so many ways to fund these things. That we could talk about. Maybe we'll talk about it in a different episode.
Yeah, maybe so. But one of the other things, though, we can actually wrap this session up with is charitable.
Yes. Yeah.
What ministry or what organization you say, you know what? I love that organization, what it stands for, what it's doing, what it's done for my family. And when I pass on, I want to leave a contribution to them. Listen, that's possible.
Yeah, that is.
I call it passing the baton. But who are you passing it to, right? What your business, even,
yes,
right? Who are you passing that baton to?
Yeah.
Who's going to take it over? So you can leave a legacy in a charitable organization, in a ministry you started, or a ministry you were a part of. All of those things are things you need to assess and actually look at and say, okay, where am I at with that? And then put some things in place.
And that's huge for maybe those that don't have children or those
Right.
that don't have a family.
True, very true.
You know, a lot of times what happens is when we sit down with clients who don't have children, don't have family to pass on things, they're like, I don't have anything, so I don't need it. You do.
You do.
And if you do have an organization or a business, those type of things, you know, you want to be able to leave your legacy in that. And we'll talk more about, because I kind of got a feeling when we talk about like business type of stuff, what's your exit strategy with business? How are you going to leave that business? There's so many businesses out there that they're not girding up somebody else to take over the business. They don't have a successor or anything like that. And then the business dies.
Family business. They have to do that too. You have to have someone if you're the breadwinner and that is a booming business, you want to make sure your kids are trained up. If someone knows the back end of that business so it can continue on to the next generation.
Absolutely.
Definitely need it. It is the tools and the legacy preparation tools that we want to impart to you so that you can leave a meaningful legacy with documentation to support what you would want to happen.
Yes, absolutely. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Please follow us on all social medias, Beyond Legacy. And we just look forward to hearing from you. Please put in the comments some of the things that you have put into place in your legacy preparation. What is in your legacy preparation toolbox? What have you put in there? What do you need to work on? What are you working on? Do you have questions? Ask them in the comments section. And then don't forget to go to our website, www.iambeyondlegacy.com, for all future events. We look forward to seeing you next time.